Purnima, I think we are live.
Hey,
Hello, everyone. Sincere apologies for us starting late. We had some technical difficulties, but luckily, Purnima and I figured it out with our brilliance. So we are ready to get started. Hello, everyone. Happy Thursday. Hi, I'm Christina Pan, and welcome to my LinkedIn Live podcast. I'm an executive coach, and I specialize in helping AI first CEOs, founders, and senior executives get clarity and conviction in your higher stakes arenas by strategically leveraging your zone of genius for your most consequential impact. I am so excited to have Purnima Padmanabhan here for a live human conversation today.
good
Again,
to
just
be here.
so yeah, thanks, Purnima. Purnima is general manager of Broadcom's Tanzu division. Prior to joining Broadcom, she was senior vice president and general manager of VMware's modern applications and management business and was responsible for application modernization, cloud native application development, and multi cloud management. She previously led the company's cloud management business. Purnima has extensive experience building and launching innovative products in cloud infrastructure, security, and enterprise mobility. Prior to joining VMware, Purnima was CEO of Cavern, a cloud security company where she drove a turnaround. She was previously COO of Mocha 5, a desktop virtualization company, and was responsible for global product operations. Purnima holds an MBA from Stanford University and an MS in computer engineering from the University of Southern California. And Purnima and I actually know each other from over 25 years ago. It's like half my life, Purnima. We worked together at LoudCloud in the early cloud days, before AWS even existed. And
Yes.
yes, and we also worked together at Marimba, where Purnima was actually my boss. Thanks for being an awesome boss. Um, Purnima, so it's so great to reconnect with Purnima for this podcast because she has had a front row seat across multiple eras of enterprise software, including now agentic AI. This gives Purnima a distinct vantage point on what might matter most for leaders navigating higher stakes in AI transformation right now. Today, we hope to spark your mind on non-obvious insights as enterprise AI gets real, moving from experimentation to real adoption, including leadership challenges of AI transformation that aren't obvious from the outside, and evolving security implications of the latest frontier AI models and what's important for CEOs and chief risk officers to be thinking about. Purnima, welcome to the show.
Hey, it's great to be here. And indeed, that was good. You referenced we have known each other for a long time since the Loud Cloud days. I always say the cloud before cloud.
Yes, that's right. The
Mhm.
cloud before the cloud before the cloud,
Yeah.
baby. Okay, let's dive right in. So, as we said, you've had a front row seat across multiple eras of enterprise software. With your view into how the largest enterprises are adopting AI, what do you see coming that others don't see yet?
So look, the each business that I talk to goes through a different adoption journey. Often uh, early on, a lot of customers that I talk to and enterprises that I talk to set up isolated AI labs where there were these people who were experimenting with AI. Then everybody realized, AI cannot be just sitting in an ivory tower. And as coding assistants became more common, it became more democratized. And that became actually the number one use case almost everywhere in enterprises, which is how can I accelerate my application development using AI? And then from there, it has now moved on to okay, how can I improve my business processes using AI? And so I see now enterprises doing the entire spectrum of use cases. But often the euphoria of initial success is very high because AI gets you immediate results, cute looking documentation, easy access, a nice chat interface, and things like that. But really, it's the second step that people then have to deal with. Of course, there is the security implications that customers worry about, but I find the biggest one that people never ever imagine is the amount of organizational and human change that is needed, right? It is a fundamentally different way to approach things. And I would say we went through the same thing. Look, my business is building software. And of course, I'm going to be applying AI. My business process is software development. So, what we did is we went and applied AI to software development. And our first easy win was let us just start accelerating coding. So, we went and accelerated coding. Great, huge improvements and all that. But now, a software development life cycle is much longer than coding. Coding is only like 25% of your life cycle, all the way from requirements gathering, validating requirements, prototyping, to coding, to testing, to documentation, to release. There is a huge life cycle that is there. And so while it crunched down the coding, it made a bottleneck in every other place. So if you had not equipped your product managers with high-end AI, if you had not equipped your testing engineers with high-end AI, there was a bottleneck in the rest of the life cycle. So then we had to rethink our approach and say, okay, how do we make sure that every aspect of that business flow, which is software development life cycle, is automated and accelerated using AI? So that was the first challenge. And so people who try to do pockets of acceleration with AI see similar issues with their business processes, something that they didn't think about, right? Unintended consequence of acceleration in one area is like a bottleneck in the other. The second thing is when we did fix the software supply chain, we found our engineers, our architects, our product managers were all not accustomed to this style of building software. So we had to, and usually most organizations are organized functionally, right? You've got a product team, you've got an engineering team, you've got a testing team. So then we had to go and say, okay, this is not working well. We have to break the functional silos. Only then people can come together and work. The human speed has to match the AI speed. Only then you get leverage. So that was kind of another area which I wouldn't have known to think about before I started using AI. And then the final piece was even after we started using AI, we found AI tends to make things look pretty. Okay. And that is its positive and its negative, right? It creates beautiful documentation, it writes perfectly syntactically correct code, right? So
Yes, it comes
when
across looking polished.
very polished. So when you look at it, you say, oh, it must be right. AI has produced this code which is perfectly compiling and it has got all the documentation, and you fall into um, uh, almost you fall prey to that good looks kind of thing, and you think, oh, this is all correct. So we found the escape defects actually increased significantly with AI because we were building this codes with AI, a code with AI, and letting go many things that otherwise would have been caught. And so we had to go and, again, something I have never known, go and institute a skeptic role within the organization who could look at what is being produced, inspect it, and say, hey, even though it looks perfect, it is not right. It is probably not architecturally right, or it is not right from a long term management and maintenance perspective. Right. So it's been an interesting set of learnings. And Christina, I think I told you this when we were earlier chatting that this notion of perfectness and suddenly not being able to investigate it is common everywhere, right? And I heard this little research which said doctors often underdiagnose the seriousness of an issue if the person looks very well dressed. And that's because they say, oh, that person is probably looking at, being properly dressed is an indication of also being healthy, is what the mind is making a connection. And I think same thing applies to all the other walks also.
Oh my gosh. I love that your quote, especially about human speed has to match AI speed. Only then you get leverage. Purnima, that's such a brilliant insight. Um, and could you give an example more of what you mean by escape defects, or something that the good looks and polish hid that was surprising? just to give maybe more concrete context
Yeah, I
for
mean,
people listening?
look, AI produces code that compiles, right? It's not going to make a mistake there. It's always perfectly documented. It's beautifully indented. All the brackets are in the correct place. So when a reviewer is reviewing, doing code review, and even you can use AI to do code review also, of course.
Yes, yes.
But even when a human is doing a code review, you do get lulled into this. Just like I talked about the doctor's example, you get lulled into thinking that it is probably right, and your brain is not questioning it as much as it should. And that is what I meant by we needed a skeptic role, which is very interesting, right? Because you have to say, okay, I can't be lulled into thinking whatever AI is producing is right. I have to be checking it with that mindset that this is probably wrong and let me figure out if it is right or not, right or wrong. Or and when I said escape defects, what I meant was the unintended. So code looks perfect, but then maybe there is a um, issue downstream that causes another defect to emerge. That's what I meant by escape defects. So defects that, let us say, escape defects in our parlance is defects that a
They
customer catches that we did not
Mm,
catch in our testing cycle. And usually we pride ourselves to being very low. So when we initially started doing the AI, we found there was very quickly code being produced. I'm seeing now the same thing happening in security space, which we'll get into. But what happens is you're patching very fast, and you have unintended consequences. And now you've got a defect that you probably have not figured out and not tested for that goes out. Now we have closed down the loop, right? There are many things that we have done organizationally, and we can get into that to close down the loop now. So these are all solvable problems, but not something that you know unless you go through it.
okay. And so, on the skeptic role, that's a human, is that right? Or is it?
Skeptic role. So there is a both. You want to be, you want to have, and especially in the, so you may or may not know, but Broadcom had very early access to Mythos also. But just generally in the testing role, we often have different models test, right, and counter test and debate and so on. So that is definitely there between models. But this skeptic role is also what I'm talking about, a human skeptic. And that human skeptic cannot be one person all the time. You have to rotate that skeptic in that team so that they don't get fatigued.
Okay. Oh, interesting, fascinating. And how does oh, yes, I mean, I don't wanna get too in the weeds, but maybe for, like, a high level takeaway, what was something most surprising that would be useful for the other, leaders and senior execs listening about the principles of the skeptic role?
I think when you're designing a few takeaways, right? The first takeaway is when you're looking to apply AI to either solve a problem or improve a business process, think about it a little bit more holistically. When you apply AI to a point portion in your process, while you might get a good win, you may create this accordion like bottleneck in other places, right?
Yes.
That is the first piece. And that is, I think, a takeaway that applies to every industry and any business process that you're trying to improve with AI. The second piece is that um, think about organizational structures. So, if in my case, I was modifying my software development lifecycle, right now I've got swarms of agents doing all kinds of things and so on. But when you're transforming a business process, you have to figure out, reassign, reevaluate, and redefine the roles of the humans who are
Yes.
part of that business life cycle. If you do not tweak that and if you do not think through that correctly, again, you'll have a suboptimal process, right? You're going to miss things or you're going to create bottlenecks and else. So that is the second piece, which is it is not just about a agentic system going and doing something on its own. What is the human agent interaction or the human application interaction is a very important piece. And that is an organizational design piece. And it doesn't limit to just changes to individual roles, it's also how you want to bring teams together. So in our case, we chose to break some functional boundaries and bring teams together in units that are working much faster than, let us say, sitting in silos. But each organization, as they apply AI to accelerate something, they'll have to think, what organizational structure do I want to pair with it? Right, that is an important. So that's kind of takeaway two, right? Takeaway two thing, and takeaway three really around the skeptic is AI. Um, no, we have not even touched on security issues of AI. We'll come to that and other problems. But even assuming AI works perfectly to what your business case or use case is, still there are mistakes happening within that, and you have to have enough checks and balances in the structure, in your role structure, in your organizational structure, and even how you play the models to address that. Now, in all of these, I think since you talk a lot to the startups, there is actually opportunities for AI startups to come and solve problems in each of these areas, right? So whether it is building more better workflow systems, better test harnesses, there are so many areas that can be solved in this
Oh, I love
in
that.
this space.
Because I am
Mhm.
in this podcast, I did want to ask about your optimism areas of optimism.
We'll get to that. Yeah,
Yeah, we'll
yeah,
get
yeah.
to that. Okay, yes, I was thinking that, yeah, when you were talking about the bottleneck and the accordion, that it was, you were very much like steering towards a holistic view. So that's a
Yes.
great takeaway. And I wanted to follow the thread a little more on the human side, right? Because you
Yeah.
said the org transformation is the most difficult, not just in the AI wave, but in all the previous platform shifts that
Yes.
you've seen. Um, what is something that is not obvious to people on the outside that was a top learning that your team went through?
I think, in fact, all the stories that I talked about, none of them were obvious to us. None
Okay.
of idea
And
that,
it's great to hear that, right? That because right now, you speaking, everyone must be like, "Oh, wow, they had their act together." But it's great that you're sharing it wasn't obvious from the beginning.
yeah, as I mentioned earlier, also none of this was obvious to us, right? And let me give you a different example. The first example was of software development and others, and then another example is in the security side, right? So in the last 5 months, I guess, since Mythos um, and Glasswing exploded on this scene, so many dramatic shifts have happened. And so when we first got Mythos, we had no idea what we were looking at, right? We threw it at so expect, let me first tell the takeaway and then I'll tell you the story.
Okay.
Expect to not know what you will face, and you have to just be very fast on your feet and think and react, right? That is what you have to do. And if we have seen shifts in the past with many tectonic shifts on the platform side, this is also a tectonic shift, but it's really a tsunami, right? The impact is so large and so pervasive and so huge that you do have to respond very fast to it. So with Mythos, we started scanning our code, scanning internal code, external code. And look, this thing is damn powerful. Everybody knows that. But I'm saying it's real. The amount of security issues it finds, the kinds of exploits it's able to do are just, we were just blown away by it, right? Being able to take a piece of software and if you would take a Mythos as a red team or a blue team, so say, hey, behave like a hacker and attack this software. It's able to take a look at the software, look at the environment, even if the software is pretty well fortified, look at all these low level vulnerabilities that might be around it, chain it together, and create an attack. And so when we started looking at the level of vulnerabilities, we said, oh my goodness, we have to react very fast. We have to start patching our systems. But then as we have, and then we have to also figure out what vulnerability is real. How do we patch it? How do we develop it? And so over the course of, I would say, just a matter of 3-4 weeks, we had to refine how we use the models. How do we train it? How do we create a harness? How do we define the skills? How do we teach it to look for the right things? How do we teach it to have better lesser false positives, right? So that whatever I'm looking at is accurate. All that is learning, Christina, which we didn't have at the beginning. So to even say I was expecting a whole bunch of things on any of the things that we are doing with AI right now, and we're doing quite a bit, I would say. It would be crazy. So nobody should beat themselves up for saying, for not knowing something when they get into it. But you cannot afford to sit on it. When you find something is an issue, if you have to act on it very fast. Otherwise, your value proposition just keeps going down, and you are sitting with a pile of um, negative impacts that you're dealing with, right? And that is why you have to respond very fast.
Oh, I love that. Sitting on a pile of negative impacts.
Yeah.
That's a nice way of saying it. And yes, just to reflect back, I really love your takeaway in normalizing that uh, to expect to not know what you will face. Um, so I think that principle alone is very helpful for so many executives who are navigating this shift in real time as well, right? And without a roadmap, we have past roadmaps that some of which might apply, but nobody really has a roadmap or precedent. Um, and so then, just curious for you personally, like as a leader dealing with all this uncertainty and being fast on your feet, is there any principle that you go by or a specific tip or approach that might be helpful for other executives listening?
I think one is observe what is happening and respond very fast to it, so that you're constantly experimenting and trying to hone down to where you need the answers you need to get to, right? That is, I think, very critical. The other thing is sharing with industry peers and industry best practices, because everyone looks at it with a different angle, and you might really find something that is very innovative that applies to you also. Just to give you an example, in this whole mythos saga that's been happening, and look, we have done some amazing things, and I'll definitely discuss a little bit about that. Over the last, I would say, month to 45 days, I have had a conversations with about 50, 60 CISOs and CIOs of large corporations, banks, healthcare, so on. And my conversation that was in the first few weeks is dramatically different from the conversation I'm having now. Because, first of all, the industry has evolved very fast in learning how to deal with mythos. There is a better understanding of, okay, I'm going to be vulnerable. So now what? Right? Instead of from the shock, it has moved to now what? Okay. Then next is, okay, let me figure out how I segment my risk. I have got commercial software, I've got open source software. I have to fix both of that. And so we learned that, and we moved very fast to offer a bunch of solutions. And then the next is, oh, great, I can't, coming to understanding that even if I have all the fixes and patches I need to secure my vulnerability, I'll never be able to patch all of it. So how do I mitigate? Right? And then what are the right steps to mitigate? So you've gone through a process that might have taken 6 to 8 months in something else, and you've compressed it down to 3 or 4 weeks, and you've moved through that entire process to say, okay, we need to deal with it, we need to deal with different types of software, we need to figure out patches, and then we need to do mitigation steps. All not only gone through the process, executed it, and put it in hands of customers. That's kind of what we have done, for example. And so the idea is with AI, the one takeaway is just respond fast, right? You won't know what you're getting, but you learn fast. And then the second one is, I can probably give it to you in writing, that we would not have been able to triangulate all this as fast had we not have been having those conversations and sharing. We were sharing our best practices, but the customers were also sharing their best practices with us, and that has been, I would say, very impactful.
Wow, that is a very keen insight. And the sharing part, yes, the humanness too.
It's back to the humanness. For all the AI, it's back to the humanness.
Leveraging the human side. And speaking of the sharing, and mythos and security, I want to take the conversation there. Um, because you are here to share your thoughts that could help others as well. And I know you're out there talking a lot about the implications on security with these new frontier AI models. You had told me these AI models are breaking out of sandboxes. AI is being used to hack websites. There's a huge implication in the industry. So, what are your thoughts on that?
So the good thing is a good thing and bad thing. Like, of course, a lot of things are happening, but it also, I feel, is a silver lining. For the first time, security researchers have some tools on their side that are probably as powerful as what hackers would have. And so we can respond much faster. But my business unit, which is Tanzu, is in this business. And that is why it is so interesting and exciting. To be able to go and solve some of these problems. And so when you look at security and especially software security, right? Application security. When I say application, this could be your banking app, your claims management app, your healthcare app, right? That is what I mean by an application. Things that run our day-to-day needs. Now, the interesting thing is many of these applications are written in some software language, Java, Python, Node.js. But a lot of these mission critical applications are written in Java and more specifically in a framework called Spring. And Broadcom and my team specifically are the primary stewards of this enterprise framework called Spring. And most mission critical apps in most of the enterprises are written in Spring and Spring Framework. So we have been racing very fast to make sure Spring, while it's already a very secure framework, still with AI advent of AI, there has been security vulnerabilities found in it. It's an open source framework. So we have been racing to aggressively find these vulnerabilities, triage it, fix it, and patch it. And just in June, we released the largest patch in the open source in our 23-year history of Spring. But we also have gone and created a enterprise Spring solution or enterprise secure OSS solution so that customers that are building their application stacks, right, their mission critical applications using open source software, get clean software. They get patched software. They get cleanly built software. They get software that they can easily use inside their applications. When I say software, these are components that you put inside. It's like nuts and bolts and screws. And if you're building a rag, if you're building some mechanical thing, these pieces, if they are, or ingredients, if you're cooking a recipe, right? So we make sure that the ingredients are safe. They are sourced well. They are built well. They are produced well, they are secure, and they are patched. And that whole software library ecosystem, we are cleaning it up and providing it as a service to our enterprise customers. And then the second thing is, okay, you've got the software, the ingredients is good, but now you're building the recipe. You want to make sure your utensils that you're making your recipe in are also clean. And that is where the application, once it's built, it runs on some infrastructure and it runs on platforms. And so we have a solution called Tanzu Platform that allows enterprises to take their applications, enterprise applications, and run it on the platform. And when they run an application on the platform, they can mitigate the exploit risk of something like Mythos down by almost 40-50%, right? So because it
And
has a lot
improving
of
all the time,
controls.
I'm sure, right? Due to your
Pardon?
team's work. And improving all the time due to your team's
And it
work.
is improving all the time, and you it's like back and forth seesaw, right? You improve, you so but it is but it removes whole classes of exploits because it gives you a very curated clean infrastructure to and a platform to deploy your applications, and gives you the automation to keep the applications patched, keep them secure, keep them safe, and always keep them well configured. And so that's kind of the solutions we've been putting out in the market, and it has been very exciting to collaboratively work with customers and almost near real time, right? I'm talking about within few days being able to take some input, build it, fix it, send it back, and then get feedback. So that has been amazing and wouldn't have been possible without AI.
Oh, wouldn't have
Mhm.
been possible or wouldn't have been caused either without AI.
Yeah, causation and possibility. Look,
Both.
both of them are true. We wouldn't have woken up to the fact that there have been state actors, there have been hackers hacking these systems, and you needed to get them in more secure environments. You needed to get, nobody's going to say, I didn't want clean ingredients for my recipe. Nobody's going to say, I didn't want to cook in clean utensils or clean vessels, right? But it was not a priority till you fell sick. So that is kind of all what we're doing. I know people find this analogy is very funny, but that is the cleaning the supply chain is what we're doing, right? All the way from supplying the right software bits, helping you build the right secure software, and then deploying it securely so that the security risks are mitigated.
Okay, and so I have a question like, so for CEOs, for example, or
Yeah.
chief risk officers who might not be steeped in security, what is important for them to know about what they need to pay attention to and what they need to be thinking about at that level?
I mean, for CEOs, this has to be on their radar. If it's not, I can't imagine. It's crazy. Because if you're, for example, a bank and your core trading platform gets hacked or your consumer banking gets hacked, that is like an um, critical infrastructure hack. Telcos, critical infrastructure hack. Healthcare, critical infrastructure hack. So it is very much a CEO concern and a chief risk officer concern. And CEOs have to be aware of it. They should be demanding action. They should be looking into how organizations are protecting themselves, and also how you're doing risk mitigation across the board. Um, I don't think it's an option, Christina. This is not like some
Yeah.
little thing on the side that's a
Shout
can
it
can
from the
get.
rooftops.
Oh, you didn't patch. Fine, put it behind a firewall and in a somewhere and it'll be safe. That this is not what we are talking about. You just have to take action at this point to start getting a lot more disciplined about how you're running your um, mission critical business, right? Like we've talked about this for a long time since cloud days. All businesses are software businesses. All come right. That's what we have talked about, and now you can say everything is agentic, but that's fine. And so, if everything is software, and if software itself is contaminated, your business is sick. So, how to me, there is almost no choice but to look at this seriously, question this seriously, putting it into your staff meetings and understanding how you're resolving it is going to be must have. And what I do see is most many first of all, the customers who were part of enterprises who were part of Glasswing definitely take it seriously. But anybody who has really been playing a lot with these frontier models definitely takes it seriously, and many of them are spending effort, time, coordination, and tokens to secure themselves.
And what do you see as the biggest mindset shift from like the old days of security versus now?
Um, I think
Because you yourself
there was a
pretty
perspective.
much patched there, right? So go ahead.
Yeah, there was a perspective at some time where it was like, look, even if my systems are slightly insecure, my perimeter security can save me, or I have got some layers of defense that can save me. And look, the layers of defense are important, and they are still going to be very critical or even more critical. But there is this has to be a wake up call to many businesses to say, what is my main business running on, and if that one layer gets breached, am I going to go bankrupt because my entire business gets breached? So how do I run my entire business in a secure way, not just the layer that is the external perimeter layer, right? That is kind of a shift that has to happen.
Oh, so do you see the mindset shift more like to being proactive and like embedded in the DNA or like the core part of the business as opposed to like more reactive? Is that
I can't say that that is not true already. I mean, like, look, security has always been there and it'll always be there. But the security of the business is no longer a chief risk officer or a CISO's concern only. You're talking about the viability, or Like if you say my business is going to go bankrupt, every line of business is going to be thinking how do I make money? Right? Versus security used to be, oh, it's that person's job,
Yes, yes.
and
Who
they
was
are going to be,
the
that mean person is going to come with a stick and beat me on the head. But now really it becomes a shared responsibility, right? Because you're talking about the implications being much more dramatic,
AI?
and the probability of that implication being much higher. Right, whenever the breach happened, the implications were always dramatic, but the probability of that breach was lower. And so now, since it's higher, it's everybody's job, literally. And so I think for the first time, I would say, even I see IT organizations or even CISOs or risk officers have got a stake to say, look, you have to do it this way. Then otherwise, there's no business. It's not about my way or the highway, or you're not following the rules or being nitpicky. This is about survival, right? So then it changes the equation.
Yes, it's like we're all in a higher stakes game.
High
Yeah,
stakes. Yes.
higher stakes. Um, okay. Wow, fascinating. Thanks for sharing. Is there anything else that you wanted to mention that you're seeing in terms of security implications that is real time happening that maybe folks on the outside have not fully realized yet?
I think we covered quite a bit.
Yes.
I don't
Okay.
want to overdose your
Let's
audience with security implications.
let's
I think
not
we covered quite a bit.
Okay, then I would actually like to pivot a little bit because you had mentioned AI founders earlier. And so from your vantage point, what is your advice to AI native founders on how to figure out, sticky ideas that have long-term durability or anything else that might be high leverage for the AI native founders listening?
It's hard for me to have a crystal ball or predict anything,
Oh,
especially
for
given
sure.
the, yeah, special,
Oh, and
especially given,
oh yes, go ahead, take water.
mm, especially given the dramatically uh, volatile nature of things. But I think it's still back to basics. You have to solve a real pain point, and it can't be just definitely things that are just solving a problem with lot of customization and things like that are going to have a tougher time, because the customer is going to say, well, I can just do it myself, I don't need you for that. So you have to solve a problem that brings more to the equation than just automating something for a customer, right? We automate problems. We like, hey, I want a restaurant check-in software or something like that. So there has to be either a effect that comes from pooling of knowledge that you're getting from others that makes it better, or there has to be some industry perspective, or there has to be some understanding of market dynamics or regulatory dynamics that's baked into the product, right? If the product is just a simple automation product, customers could say, I can do it myself, I've got AI, right? So thinking through those additional layers of value or defense that you're bringing into the product is going to be important. Just here at Broadcom itself, I see our CIO look at many areas and say, oh, great, you know what? I don't need that software anymore. I can just build it myself
Mm.
using AI, right? Now, if the product had the kinds of things that I talked about, then it becomes more irreplaceable, because it's deriving its value not from just a mechanical action, right? I think that's so my advice would be, think about, as especially as founders, you're trying to do product market fit, you're trying to do use case definition, you're trying to do insertion points and think of what use cases fit in fast or insert. Thinking through that aspect is also going to be important.
Oh, okay. And thanks for getting back to like basics and first principles, basically, which is a timeless principles. Um,
Basics and first principles, But I think what is different with AI is, again, think about that differentiating aspect where you cannot be just automated out, right? That is the key thing that you have to think through.
Mm. And just curious, since you mentioned your colleague who is, building their own software to replace software, what are your thoughts on like a SaaS apocalypse? Or
Um, some of it may be true, but some of it is also, I mean, what is the difference? You could have, there are companies who could have hired infinite developers, and still you go for package software because if that is not your business, do you want to go and so it's going to be a cost efficiency and cost time to value trade off, right? And yeah, if you think that you can make your business more profitable by going and building that piece of software, then it makes sense. But do you get the power of pooling? Do you get the power of all the innovation? Do you get the power of the collective innovation that goes into any of these products because they're getting feedback from multiple customers? Is something that you have to think. The other part of the SaaS apocalypse. How are you saying?
Sorry, SaaS apocalypse. Yeah.
SaaS apocalypse, yeah, SaaS apocalypse. Is that I think it's less about customers building their own software, and sometimes it's just about with all the security issues, do I really want things to be in the cloud or not? So that definitely comes up. So and I guess we hear more of it because Broadcom is and VMware, we are primarily focused on the private cloud. So maybe we get disproportionately high um, exposure, right, to that type of use cases. So that is kind of the other piece of whether SaaS or software. But definitely, eh, there has to be enough differentiation and value that comes beyond just automation of that task. That's what I said earlier. And if that is there, then I don't think this is a done deal yet.
Hmm. I
Mm.
mean, people said TVs would be dead, but we're still watching TV, but in a different form, So,
In a different form, and look, people did say that CDs and DVDs would be dead, and it is.
yeah, and it is.
So
Right.
yeah, so we have to be careful there. But I feel if I look at the fundamentals, do I want somebody with domain expertise? I mean, why do we outsource anything for that matter? If you want, if you have a
If
even in
someone
your life, why do you take help of a gardener? Do you take help of a plumber? Why do you outsource anything? Because they are bringing some skills and knowledge and value and automation. So if all the tool is doing is business process automation of the things that you already know, that is where it'll drop out. But if you are bringing some value in a particular domain, you're bringing value from the network effect of the knowledge pooled from multiple places, then you have something differentiated. It's exactly the same conversation we had about founders building software, right, in this AI world.
Yes, and actually, it is exactly the same as what you said earlier, which is human speed is limited. AI speed is limited by human speed. Which
Ability for human to adopt it, yeah.
That's right. So
Mhm.
that applies as well. Okay, I have a couple other questions for you. I want to shift a bit to leadership transitions. Like many senior leaders, often discover, stepping into higher stakes arenas, like we had been discussing on this podcast, isn't just, bigger version of your last role. It requires you to evolve and operate differently as a leader. And you yourself, Purnima, have led from multiple seats, right? Senior operator, COO, CEO in a turnaround, GM at enterprise scale. So looking back on your own leadership transitions, what stood out most for you from these identity shifts?
Wow. I would say the biggest thing you have to learn through as your scope becomes broader. Look, there is no shortcut to you do need to have, at least I strongly believe, understand your business, have the ability to think broad, ability to stitch things together. That is, and as you go to higher roles, that ability to stitch has to become broader. Your perspective and vision has to become broader so that you can, and I notice this especially in my turnaround projects, right? You have to look at every aspect of the business, and yet you can't get very deep. You have to be able to glean enough, right? So without getting deep, how can you uh, very quickly get to the so what of everything and then stitch it together? That is very important. So you go from uh, depth first algorithm, where you're going very deep when you're at a maybe a more um, manager level, versus when you're getting to more senior roles, you want to be at breadth but with very clear synthesis of what each area is bringing to it, right? So that is one thing. The other one biggest transition is you go from depending on yourself to really depending on your team. And that is the biggest transition, because you won't know everything and you have to very quickly start figuring out what are you going to give up, what are you going to delegate, and then which kind of resources and people can you delegate to so that you get the right outcomes back for your synthesis mission, because ultimately you have to be the synthesizer still when you're building, like as a GM often, or whether as a CEO or as GM, you
Yeah.
really need to be that uh, synthesizer of that strategy. And while people may create strategy documents for you, you still need to figure out what is the strategy you have to take. And so that is the other piece, which is go from just purely depending on yourself to depending on people and depending on a broader team. um, I think those are some things that come to mind. I'm sure there are more.
What was maybe one thing that was most surprising to you out of like that shift to synthesizer, CEO, GM, for example?
You know, when when you think of, like, earlier in your career, when you look at all these leaders, they just feel so all encompassing. They can do everything. They can, they're going for the 4 o'clock run and they're going to do everything. I mean, in real life, definitely that is not true, but still, that's the perception that comes out. And it is very important, as important it is to know your strengths and where you play and what you can do and synthesize and all that fun stuff. I think
Yes.
it's very important to know your weakness and be able to cover for your weakness with the right sets of tools and but more importantly people around you, right? And that is something that maybe you don't think about as much when you're younger, or when, not younger, but I guess when you're in a, age doesn't matter in any role, but when you're in a, let us say, a more line manager role, right? But being able to honestly say, okay, what you want to really accomplish, and then where are your weaknesses, what are your gaps, and very quickly be able to cover for those is something that I would say maybe people don't think about.
I could, yeah, I validate that as well.
Mhm.
Just 'cause that's what I focus on in executive coaching.
Yeah,
But so I hear you saying, like, especially at the CEO, GM, synthesizer level, it's like double down in your zone of genius and then let other people fill the gaps because
yeah,
that's going to be their strengths too. Is that
yes,
what you mean?
yes, that's
Oh,
exactly
yeah.
right.
Um,
That's what I mean by cover for weakness. You cannot be this all encompassing person that does everything which you thought
you
somebody
were.
is, you were, or yeah, you just be honest, and you get to much better results that way. And that's a key piece.
And it's leveraging your natural gifts and talents. So it's
Yes.
it should be easier for you too.
It is both ways. Yeah, you leverage at the same time by surrounding yourself with people who have strengths in other areas. You can pull on their thoughts, pull on um, and collaborate with them on their ideas, right?
Yeah, and they're gonna be better at it than
Yes,
than you do. That's something I learned as well.
yes,
And so, before we get to 2 fun questions at the end, I wanna close with some positive energy. Again, as we said, you've been at the front edge, like, innovating on multiple major platform shifts, right? And So, what possibilities do you see opening up that give you the most optimism through all this AI transformation?
I can't. I mean, the possibilities are just so vast, right? AI is. I've never seen. I've seen many transitions, many exciting transitions. Be it the all the way from browser to the .NET to the cloud to the phone, and really look. While all of them have been dramatic in their own right, nothing I feel has been as dramatic a change or impact or touching every walk of life like I see AI is doing. And it is going to continue to transform us on a daily basis, even who we are as humans, who we are as just like social media has fundamentally altered our brain chemistry. I think AI is going to change who we are as humans, really, because the way we interact, everything. So to me, the scale is just quite unimaginable. It seems very vast, and I do believe there will be huge amount of changes because the good thing is the human creativity has just grasped onto the collective population has just grasped onto this AI, and every day the amount of innovation that is getting put out is just insane. So I see a lot of innovation. I'm very excited to see some of the innovation that's happening in music and democratizing of music that is happening, democratizing of content that is happening. And social media did some of that, but AI is doing even more of that. So that is very exciting to see. An area close to my heart. Mm.
Oh, fascinating. Yes. And actually,
Mhm.
I totally agree. I love that point that AI is making us better humans because it's definitely making me a stronger strategic thinker, for example. And so, what about for
And
you?
actually, sorry, I must say, I do not know whether it's making us better humans.
Oh, that's
I didn't say it is better. I think I'm very excited about the creativity it unleashes, but fundamentally, I don't think it is doing anything for us to become good, whatever scale you choose, right? Morally good people or good as a human race. I don't think that is the case. It's more of it's just unleashing the creativity and the innovative capabilities in we have as humans. And I think just like social media has had over the years now such a dramatic impact, you
yeah.
know, I do think AI is going to change how we behave, how we interact, etc., in a even more dramatic way.
I see. I see. So it's more dramatic change, not necessarily good.
No, that doesn't have to look. It is unleashing the hackers, and that is not necessarily good. But so that's why I said it's not necessarily good, and that is why, in fact, there is a. I mean, look, every house probably has all these debates on should AI be controlled, should it not be controlled, is it unleashing all kind. Right now, the latest debate in our household is about the growth of data centers and power hungry AI eating up all the food and the water supply and everything and energy, everything. So I think this dilemma and this debate will continue. But I also see that the power, the reason it is just taken all the airspace and all our imagination is just the power of how much innovation it can unleash.
Yes, yes,
Mhm.
for sure. And are you using it to create music?
Yeah, I do. And then I think one of my, I would say, um, favorite apps, though it's not in music, is Notebook LLM. I just
Oh, cool.
absolutely love Notebook LLM. You like it as a, I mean it can take you just throw a whole bunch of documents and pretty much it gives me a podcast on that topic which I can listen while I'm driving to work. So
Mm.
I just love the way it ingests information and allows me to consume in this conversational style that you and I are having.
Oh, great. Actually, I think you maybe just answered the one of the fun questions I so we'll go there is I was going to ask what's a cool use of AI that you personally find exciting and think more people should know about? Is it Notebook LLM?
I would say for sure. Yeah.
And what's the best thing about it? besides what you just told us about the.
I mean, it's just very easy to use, as with many of the AI tools that are there. But what I like best is it synthesizes a lot of complex information in a very easy podcast style. And especially, we don't have time to ingest that much information. We don't have time to read as much. So when I'm driving, then I'm able to hear a podcast on a topic that it has created and curated specifically for me. So it's a really wonderful way to consume pretty complex topics.
Oh, I love that tip. I don't use it for that, so that's great to know. I'm sure many people will find that valuable. So it's a synthesizer for a synthesizer.
Yeah, that's a good one. I like it.
Okay.
Hmm.
And second fun question is, what's something cool outside of AI, not related to AI, that you're excited about and might be valuable for the folks listening?
I don't know if it is exciting for the folks listening, but definitely with all this conversation about um, while we talk about AI connectedness, etc., there's also a lot of talk about how do you become more reliant, more build your own reliant on solar power, build your own potentially uh, sources of energy, or have your own garden to take care of your needs, daily needs, things like that. So definitely an area that is interesting for me is um, growing vegetables and gardening. And can you grow it at a in a way that it um, meets your needs? I don't think we can. I'm able to get there, but I have seen. I'm following some people who actually are able to do that, and it's quite impressive.
Oh, no limiting beliefs. Purnima, if you can run Tanzu and
I,
the community,
I think I need to stop running Tanzu to go and figure that out.
I have no doubt you could figure it out. Wow, I love that. Again, it's back to basics and
Yeah.
being in touch with nature. Yeah, it's
Yes.
definitely always energizing for mental and emotional energy. Um, so thank you for sharing that. Okay, so Purnima, for people who want to connect with you, what's the best next step for them?
I think since you said you're live streaming this on LinkedIn, I would say LinkedIn is a good way to connect, and that's what my recommendation would be.
Okay, so connect with Purnima on LinkedIn. We'll share the links in the show notes. And then for those who would like to connect with me, for AI first CEOs, founders, and senior executives navigating higher stakes arenas and your most consequential outcomes, if partnering with an executive coaching thought partner and sounding board is timely for you, I also invite you to reach out or book a call on my LinkedIn for the next step. And so, Purnima, thank you so much. This was incredible. A few things that stood out to me were your insightful quote about human speed has to match AI speed. Because I think that's easy to forget when, a lot of teams and leaders are like in the frenzy of like, oh, I got to react fast. And also, again, the organizational transformation. And I really appreciate you sharing and normalizing that. It's normal to expect that you won't know what you will face.
Yes,
And
for
that
sure.
everything you shared, even though you shared it so articulately, and it's like, oh wow, okay, that was obvious. You actually revealed that it was not obvious,
Yeah.
and that we're all in it together. And I think that one of the best advices was the sharing, and really leveraging the like crowdsourcing the human knowledge of all the top players around you, like customers, partners, others in the industry, so that you're not isolated and alone. So, yes, thank you everyone
Good
for
summary.
today. I was like, and yes, hope that was a good recap. But
Mm.
any last words you want to say to the audience?
I think it was fun chatting with you. Great connecting after um, Loud Cloud, which was of course a trend in its own way. as I say, the first cloud company and cloud before cloud, the whole utility computing model. And since then, we have seen all these new shifts. So it was fun to catch up on everything.
Yes, Loud Cloud was in the year 2000 for anyone
Yes,
who didn't know
who
about
may
it.
not know.
Yes. So thank you everyone for joining us today or on the replay. Wishing you your best energy and highest leverage in your zone of genius. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.